So we finally have the floor in. We threw the mat back in just temporarily to get it out of the garage floor and to protect the flooring while we still work on the van. Today I'm just doing some measurements and trying to figure out a plan to install the water system and the electrical system. We're going to put the electrical on the passenger side and the water on the driver's side, both basically above the wheel well itself, in some type of platform, and then depending on how much space the equipment takes up, the vertical as well. But in the space that I build for like the water storage tank, I want to have it far enough in that it's basically up against the side of the front cabinets that will be on the floor in the front, so that this space back here is open to use the same cabinet for like storage cubbies, so we could put bike parts, outdoor gear, hammocks, what have you, anything we need to have access to in the back. And then hopefully something similar on the side with the electrical, depending on how much space is needed for all the components. I have some basic measurements for the water tank that I'm looking at, kind of going back and forth between like a 16 gallon or a 20 gallon. We're not looking at full-time living in here, so mostly it's like maybe a week's worth of water at best between fill-ups. It's usually for just the dogs, cleaning off the bikes. Maybe we use an outdoor shower on some trip in the warmer weather. So I'm gonna do a little bit more measuring, maybe do a quick mock-up, put some cardboard, and then probably use 2x4s to start framing in like a platform for the base, so that the water tank could actually sit on top of it, and figure out where that's going to go. The majority of this cabinet is being framed out of 2x3s. I have a few 2x4s mixed in certain places just because I have the scrap lumber. I went with 2x3s mostly just to save a little bit of weight. You could say there's a little bit of cost savings, but it's nominal really compared to a 2x4. But it does give me the ability to save some space whenever I put a sheet of ply up. There's going to be a water tank in this area. I'm hoping to be able to get some storage space out of the top in this front column here. So by keeping this 2x3 lumber smaller, it'll give me more area to open up to create cubbies and more volume within the actual containers themselves to put stuff in. The 2x3s are more than strong enough to hold the weight that's going to be in here. There'll be a 16-gallon water tank here. It's about 26 inches long, about 9 wide, which the space has been measured to fit. I'll probably put another 2x4 or 2x3 support in a few spots so that any of the weight on this 2x3 here will actually go directly to the floor, which may be overkill, but I'll probably have a few scrap pieces that will fit in just fine. The majority of this has really been framed out in pocket screws using the Kreg jig tool, and a few straight screws, but mostly these pocket screws have been really handy. One, because I can hide the screws on these faces, so when I put the ply over it, I don't have to worry about heads of screws sticking out. But also, it really is just a much tighter bond than your traditional kind of just angling it in, hoping for the best, and the wood splitting and all that. And there is some places, especially against this back wall, where the pocket screws makes all the difference as far as getting them to attach, because you wouldn't be able to get this in very well without a pocket screw. You'd either have to drill it at an angle and hope that you don't split the wood yourself, or do some kind of angle brackets or something. So this works out really well. So I'm putting these walls up. Marked a straight line across these studs that are from the bid platform in order to put some blocks up, so that whenever I put the sheet of ply for this wall, there's somewhere to connect to. Because I don't want to put a whole bunch of extra framing in and the extra weight when really there's not going to be a lot of pressure on this wall. So I just want a place to be able to screw it into at the top so it doesn't wobble or make any weird noises. So on this top sheet, we have it clamped up in place. Just ran a chalk line across so I know where the cross beams are from the bid. I'm gonna pre-drill some holes, we'll do some sanding, and then throw a coat of polyurethane on that. And then we'll start working on the sides and indicate where we're gonna cut some cabinet doors and then openings for some cubbies. This sheet at the top, we won't have anything coming off of it. It's just basically gonna be screwed into place at the top. So working on the driver's side panel for the garage section. I marked out a bunch of spots from the backside with the framing, and then I've gone through and made all the marks for some cubbies and some doors and kind of a water fill mark on the tank. I've drilled a couple pilot holes to get the jigsaw bit into. I'm going to test cut on another board to make sure it's not going to rip the facing of the plywood really bad. So I can figure out what side I need to cut on. This is the back side with all the marks. I may have to transcribe these to the front side to actually cut the wood.
Made a few test cuts on a piece of scrap plywood to determine whether to cut on the back or the front of the plywood. Found out that cutting on the back was actually going to give me the cleanest cut on the front. Very little blowout on the actual face of the plywood. So I went through and cut out all of the cubby holes, the doors, and the slot for where the water tank would go, so you'd be able to see the fill level of the tank when there was water in it.
Little status on where we're at. So I got the blocks put in on both sides so that we have some vertical support up on the walls. Cut a new trim panel out of some of the nicer kind of cabinet grade plywood. Got the hose mounted for the exterior shower. Got the other side cut as well with the exterior plug connection for the back. This will be like the regular kind of 110 outlet. And then we've got the top cap for the garage part, all drilled, coat of stain on it, letting that dry. And then over here we have the holes all cut out. And then I'm just going through and gluing some pieces as backers to, one, strengthen the edge of the plywood, but also serve as on some of these, they're actually sticking out into the space to use as a stop for the cabinet doors.